Good evening. Welcome to the Brandon and Ryan Hour. I'm Brandon,
And I'm Ryan.
and it's Monday movie review day. I'm excited. You excited about today, Ryan?
I am excited about today. Thank you for asking.
So dumb.
So on this Monday movie review, we are covering the new movie Nefarious that came out 2023.
2
Just
weeks
came out.
ago, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, limited theater release. All right. Well,
So for those of you who haven't watched this before, when we have our movie reviews, we do review these as if you've watched the movie, because we have. So if you don't care about what's going on in the movie and you just want a full in-depth breakdown, stick around. If not, go watch the movie and come back.
no, stick around, and then go watch the movie. Don't tell them to leave and come back. Nobody comes back.
Okay.
All right. So, Nefarious, written and directed by Chuck Kozelman and Carrie Solomon.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based
Anyway.
off of a book by Steve Dace.
Oh, okay. It's based off a book.
It is based off of a book.
Was not aware of that until you said so.
Okay, yeah.
Is it the book at the end of the movie?
No, it's
Okay.
a book called Nefarious, I think.
Okay. Anyway. So, it's billed as a horror movie, and I don't typically enjoy or watch horror movies because, I don't know, it just doesn't interest me normally. This one interested me. What did you think?
Yeah,
Of,
so the book is actually called A Nefarious Plot. But as far as the movie goes,
that's what the book was called at the end of the movie.
was it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was fantastic.
Yeah.
As far as the movie goes, yeah, I'm not usually a horror fan, but interviews that I saw about it, they claimed it was more of a psychological thriller, kind of in the veins of Silence of the Lambs. So I
Okay.
was interested from that, and the trailer got me interested.
Yeah, the trailer was kind of interesting. I didn't watch anything about it, but I saw the trailer in the theaters. What what's your initial what is your rating?
Yeah, so rating, I'd give it an 8.3. Felt like it delivered on a lot. The acting, especially from the person who was playing the serial killer, was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It was engaging for the most part. Yeah. What about you?
So the acting, I agree with you. All around was pretty good. It really only two main characters, and then a couple of other side characters that show up more frequently. But the two main characters, those actors did a pretty good job, especially Sean Patrick Flannery. Was an amazing performance.
Mm-hmm.
My rating, like I'm kind of all over the place. I'm not really sure, but what'd you say? 8.3.
I said like an 8.3. Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I'm around like a 6.2.
Okay. Why?
So it's billed as a thriller horror, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't any more of a thriller, like a psychological thriller, like you said.
Right.
There's no horror in it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was also confused by the rating because it's rated R. This is not a common day R rating. The movie I watched was not rated R. There was no cussing, violence, nudity, sexual stuff, nothing.
Yeah, I think the rated R is for the death scene. That's a pretty severe death scene. That's
Yeah, but
very graphic.
it's not any more graphic than the Green Mile was.
And the Green Mile is rated.
I want to say it's PG-13, but let me double check. No, it is rated R as well. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't seem like it earned an R rating from me.
and looking here at the rating thing, it is for some disturbing, violent content.
I
And
mean, that's the only violent content in the entire thing.
right, that's the climax of the movie is the
Yeah.
violent content. And when he broke his finger, that was kind of creepy. And when he tried to strangle the psychiatrist to death. But mostly the death scene. Um, the death scene, I think it earns the R rating because of the death scene. Because the death scene isn't like cartoonish violence.
Okay.
It is like legitimate, real violence. Like that's probably exactly what happens when someone gets electrocuted.
Okay. So yeah, so that's the end of the movie, but why don't we start at the beginning of the movie?
Um, I like the way it opened, and it just and the guy committed suicide at the beginning.
Yeah, but all you see is a half a second of his body falling, and that's
Yeah,
it.
but the intent is there. But anyway, so yeah, so you see that psychiatrist, the original, the what's the prisoner's name?
Michael, what is his name?
Wayne Brady.
Wayne Brady.
Every time they said his full name, I kept thinking of Wayne Brady. I was like, why are they doing Wayne Brady like that? Come on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so the whole plot of the movie, there is a serial killer supposed to be going to be put to death in what, the state of Oklahoma,
Oklahoma.
and a psychologist has been talking to him who ends up killing himself by jumping off a building. So this other psychiatrist has to come in and determine if this guy is legally competent to be able to be executed.
Yeah. Seems odd that they would do that at the end. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway. We'll get to that. But so yeah. So they get a new psychiatrist to come in to do the interview with Michael?
Yeah, I think it was Michael Wayne's Brady.
Yeah. Um yeah, so they get the new psychiatrist come in, Dr. James Martin, who's played by Jordan Belfi. And the he seemed, I don't know, pretentious.
Yeah, the doctor.
Yeah,
I think that was the whole point.
yeah. Which was well done, I guess. Um, sorry, there's something happening in my living room. My bad.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so he goes in to interview him, and I would say what 85% of the movie, it's just them two talking.
Yeah, just in a room at the jail, just talking. Yes.
Yeah. And right away, he Michael, aka Nefarious, introduced, like, just rattles off his CV and a lot of personal details, um, and then introduces himself as a demon.
Yep.
It's a little forward. Yeah, so he knows a ridiculous amount of details about him, about the doctor, and obviously the doctor doesn't believe him, and then he's trying to, you know, cycle and analyze him and everything. But um, I thought it was funny. There were a couple of funny parts, but, like, I thought it was funny when the warden was walking him in, and he was like, he's like, he'll probably have you convinced that you committed all the murders before you leave. I
Yeah.
was like, that's pretty funny. Because he's been in prison for 11 years,
Something like that. Right.
and he got a stay of execution.
Just to get the mental competency hearing done.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, I don't know, they talked about a bunch of stuff. Oh, he told him that he was going to commit. Yeah. So he was telling him that he's a demon. He tells him his name is Nefarious once he asks.
Well, he says, my name is Nefarious, or my master gave me the name Nefariamos.
Nefarious, yeah.
And then the psychiatrist said, oh, Nefarious. And he said, no, it's more accurately translated, the one who is nefarious.
Yeah. So, called him Nefarious the rest of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Where do you want to, like? There's a bunch of different ways I can go with this movie, because it's kind of all over the place.
I mean, the movie wasn't all over the place. The movie was very direct and straightforward, I feel like.
I don't think so.
I do. It was a very linear story.
Yeah, because it's just dialogue. The movie's just dialogue the whole time.
Right.
And, like, you're kind of waiting for some kind of scary moment or intense scene, but there never really is one until the end, which is why I kind of had a problem with it. I think they had a good idea. They just didn't deliver like they could have.
I feel like they did deliver. Because
How?
I mean, the entire thing was just a psychological thriller. I don't know if horror is the correct category for this. It was
Yeah, but even as a psychological thriller, how is it a psychological thriller?
because you're watching to try to figure out what happens and trying to understand it. So when I say psychological thriller, I kind of mean like it's a big mystery. Is this guy crazy, or is he demon possessed, or is he faking either condition?
But the audience knows he's demon possessed from the very beginning.
Do they?
Yeah.
How?
First, the trailer.
I
Second,
don't know if the trailer actually shows that he's demon possessed.
it's not hiding anything.
Right. It's not hiding anything, but the question is he demon possessed? Is he crazy? Or is he just really good at acting and trying to not be executed?
Were you honestly like, oh, maybe he's not actually possessed by a demon?
At the very beginning, like, I had questions.
Like, how long into it?
I don't know, 15 minutes in, I was convinced that he was actually demon possessed. But
I mean, I was convinced when it started.
okay.
There was no question in my mind that this was, that's the way the movie was written, that he's
Right, but
by a demon.
also the psychiatrist doesn't make up his mind until the very end of the movie. So you're watching his thought process as he's running through asking these questions, trying to determine what's going on.
Huh? That's because
So
the
it's
psychiatrist is an idiot.
okay, but you're
You're aware of
watching
that fact, right?
you're watching the character interactions, and how this person's ideas change and morph throughout the movie. Like that's the point of it.
I mean, that's not where I was at
Okay.
because he the the main character and the main plot driver is Nefarious. Um, the doctor, he's dumb, right? He's dumb. He's presented with all of this evidence, and yet he's
Yeah,
atheistic.
but it's evidence that goes against his worldview. So, and I mean, it seems like his worldview is very emotionally based, and it's hard to change somebody who's arrived at something emotionally by presenting them evidence.
Right. I get that. But he's still dumb.
Okay.
So the reason why I kind of have problems with the movie is because it's a Christian movie, right?
It's created by a Christian company, so the same company that did what God's Not Dead,
Mm-hmm.
um, some other Christian movies. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
but it's not overtly in your face Christian,
sure it is.
huh?
Sure it is.
It's really not.
I mean, I think that's the problem with it.
Okay.
I think if you're an atheist or if you're not somebody who's religious and you watch this movie, you're like, eh. If I was a religious person or not a religious person, and I was an atheist and I watched this movie, I'd probably give it a 3 because it was preachy.
I don't feel like it was preachy at all. I mean, there were a couple preachy moments, but overall, the movie wasn't preachy. It wasn't in
Like
your
10
face.
minutes.
Hmm?
It was like 10 minutes.
Yeah, but they were so spaced out. I didn't feel like the entire movie was preachy.
I didn't say the entire movie was preachy.
Okay.
I'm saying there were preachy elements to it, right?
Okay.
He talked. What did he talk about?
So, I mean, talking about the three murders, he talked about assisted suicide and said you made the decision or you killed your mother based on
Euthanasia.
you. Your voice kind of freaked out there. I couldn't understand
No,
anything you said.
euthanasia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
euthanasia, assisted suicide.
Yeah. He convinced his mom to kill herself via
I
doctor.
don't know if he convinced her or if she was.
He said she was in a lot of pain, and he alluded to the fact that he was
Right, but
responsible.
I don't know if she was like comatose or
How are you
if
in a
she
lot of
was.
pain if you're comatose?
I don't know.
Right. No, you're not in pain if you're unconscious.
It made it seem like it was the psychiatrist's decision, not the mother's decision.
I got the impression that the psychiatrist was instrumental in convincing his mom that she should off herself because she lived there. He lived in Oklahoma,
Okay.
whatever state she lived in. I don't remember.
All right.
Somewhere up in the Northeast. Anyway, yeah. So there's that. They talk about euthanasia.
Uh-huh.
While he's there, his girlfriend is in an abortion clinic getting an abortion,
Uh-huh.
and he knows all of that. And then he talks about Molech and child sacrifice and all that stuff. And then, which I mean, the scene was well done.
Yep.
I'm not saying that it wasn't well done. I but if you had no inclinations towards religion, you would be like, move on. I don't care.
I don't feel like you would be. But I mean, of course, I'm coming from it from the opposite perspective, but
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it was made to make people think about these questions that everybody just accepts. So
Yeah, I do too. I get why it was done, but I also
I
don't
don't
think it. I
I
don't
don't
think
feel
that
like it
movie's going to
was
convince anybody.
okay. I don't think the point is to convince anybody. I think it's to get them thinking and asking questions.
How many questions do you ask after you watch a movie?
It depends on the movie.
Okay.
Like if it's a movie about superpowers, question I always walk away with: how do I get superpowers? How can I find a radioactive spider to bite me?
Or a rich billionaire who's got issues.
Yep.
Um, anyway, I don't know. It was a little. Some of it was a little much even for me because it's not like I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. I think because of the format of the movie where it's just dialogue and they're just talking about everything and it's like bam 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 everything like it's just word vomit for like 20 minutes at one point in the movie. Um so it just I don't know, it's just I don't know. It could have been I think it could have been done better differently to make it better.
All right.
Add elements of like because you keep saying psychological thriller, but it's billed as a horror. It's like the director and the writer and
Yeah,
the
I
actor,
don't think it should have been billed as a horror.
they're all classifying it as horror. It's their movie, so they're classifying it as a horror movie,
Okay,
right?
I think that's the wrong classification, though.
You didn't make it. You can't determine.
I know. I can say it's in the wrong category, though, especially when there's interviews and they're saying, yeah, it's a horror, but it's mainly a psychological thriller.
Right, but it's
So I
not a
think
horror.
I agree with you. It is not a horror movie.
But I'm talking about it like it is a horror because they've classified it as a horror because they're trying to get into that genre to get those people who are in that genre, right?
Okay, I'm still saying I think it was misclassified.
I understand that.
Okay, great. We're on the same page.
So let me talk about it like it's a horror because
Great.
they're
Then
billing it as
do
a
it.
horror. Then
Okay.
shut up. Um, it could have been a horror movie. They could have done a lot more to make it a horror. Um, we could opine about what they could do forever, but um, that's why I'm taking points off because it's just not. I don't think it reaches the broader audience. I think it has a very narrow audience that's going to enjoy this movie, and I enjoyed it. And personally, I would give it a higher number, but as for a broader audience, I think it. That's why I'm giving it a lower score because I don't think it's going to resonate with many people, and I don't think it's going to cause a lot of people to think about it. Um, so, yeah. My other issues with the movie are the theological issues, of which there are many.
Okay. Like what?
The nature of hell, um, mm, the nature of demons.
Yeah, the
Spirit.
whole demon discussion, like why they exist or their reasoning for rebelling against God,
Mm-hmm.
obviously was just made up.
Yeah, it's a caricature.
Yeah.
Yeah, and um, the whole thing about the demon curating the Michael or Charlie, Michael, the guy on death row,
Yeah.
Wayne Brady,
Michael.
Michael, like the idea of curating him as a child to be able to um, possess him later on in life is like pure fantasy.
Okay.
And mm, the idea of, oh, what was it? Dang it, I forget. Um, but there were some good things in there, like that they hit the nail on the head. Like when they kept referring to um, Jesus as the carpenter.
Yeah, so the demon kept referring to Jesus as the carpenter, God
Mhm.
as the enemy,
Yeah,
um, but wouldn't call them by their names at all the entire movie.
which doesn't make any sense because they do call them by their names frequently.
Okay. I thought that was a
Yeah,
fun
I
way to
like
show
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I also liked how when the priest was coming in, like you could see that the actor was acting like he was scared until the priest actually gets in there and then says, "Oh, basically demons aren't real. We've evolved past thinking
mhm.
that everybody with mental issues is demon possessed. So much of it is psychological now." And he's like, "Oh, you're a phony. Fantastic. Now I'm not scared of you anymore."
And you should have known that though.
Right. I thought it was just an
Yeah,
interesting take on it.
yeah, it was an interesting take on it.
And it was a nice
It's the
distilled commentary on a lot of the clergy today.
Yeah, I would have appreciated it more if they would have brought in a, because okay, so he shouldn't have been afraid of him from the beginning. As soon as he walked in the room, he would have known. A real demon would have known
Yeah.
in theology that he wasn't anything to be afraid of. Um, but if they would have brought in another contrasting, um, what are those guys called?
Chaplain?
Chaplain, um, of one whom he actually was afraid of,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been a good contrast. I'm not afraid of you because you're a pansy. I'm afraid of you because you're of the carpenter. Um, let's see. What else was it? Carpenter. Dang it. There was more stuff. When you're talking about regretting killing Jesus, the carpenter.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, that was our biggest mistake. I didn't, that doesn't make sense theologically. And then,
Okay.
but what I did like, another thing I liked was when he was trying to convince the doctor to publish his book for him and be his disciple. He told him he would that he could give him anything that belonged to his master, and he's like, I can give you the same deal that he tried to give Jesus, because or the carpenter. It's like, I can give you, all the kingdoms of the world because they're my masters to give.
Mm-hmm.
Which most people don't think about that or understand that at the time of the temptation of Christ, those gifts that Satan was trying to tempt Jesus were his to give.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're not, though.
Yep.
So that's some of the muddy theology they got going on. And to me, what this mostly highlighted was the failed I guess, judiciary system.
Okay.
The courts and the prisons and stuff. Man's gonna sit in jail for 11 years and then be executed for heinous crimes. And then, like, the warden said, he's like, it's sad to see sometimes, because sometimes the people we execute, they're not the same men that they were when they committed the crimes.
Uh-huh.
Because it's been 10, 15, 20, 30 years since they've done those things. So we need expeditious justice
Okay.
instead of slow, useless justice. Yeah, I don't know. Those are some of the theological issues with it. It could have just, I don't know. Why did you give it an 8.3? Convince me.
I mean, I gave my thoughts at the very beginning. It was a good movie. There was good acting. It was a very
The
streamlined.
acting, I would give an 8.3 for sure.
The plot of the movie was very streamlined, very focused. There were no just random side plots that went nowhere, added nothing to the movie.
Yeah.
And felt like the pacing was good. Overall length wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. They packed everything they needed into the runtime to give a satisfying story and conclusion.
I wasn't satisfied with the story, though.
Okay, I was. I mean, I wasn't going in trying to find a very deep theological movie. I was just going to
Neither was I.
see this psychological thriller and just enjoy it. So,
Yeah, but I wasn't, even as just a psychological thriller, I wasn't I don't know. What was the word? My mind went blank. I didn't find the end fulfilling or conclusive.
Okay.
So once he does finally, I don't understand. Well, it doesn't make any sense. As if the doctor thinks that he is actually insane, why did he sign off?
Because he got attacked towards the end of the movie, and he was going off impulse instead of reason when he made that decision.
Right. I feel like if you get attacked by the guy you're interviewing, you probably would have to recuse yourself from making that determination.
Yeah, but I mean, he didn't. He obviously is very driven by his emotions. So he gets attacked, almost killed, and he's like, okay, yeah, this guy knows exactly what he's doing. He just attacked me and tried to kill me. He's not crazy. And now I
Nah,
want
I
him dead
think
because
he
he tried to
wanted.
kill me.
Yeah, regardless of whether he's crazy or not, I want him dead
Right,
because he tried to kill me and he did murder a bunch of people. And
right.
I don't think it matters whether or not he's crazy or not. He should have been executed many, many years prior
Okay.
for committing, like, what, 16 murders?
11.
Convicted of 11. He said
No.
he committed more
He
than
said
that.
he did 16. He was convicted of
Mhm.
6, one that he was
Oh,
accused of but not convicted, and 4 that they
yeah.
would have had no idea he committed.
Yeah.
So it
That's
was
right.
11.
Okay. I think it was
Okay.
16.
It
But
was
okay.
not. It was 11.
Because as he was talking, I added up and I got to 16.
I don't know how you did that because he said 11. 6 that I was convicted of, 1 I was accused of, and then 4 more that they didn't know about. I don't know how you get to 16. Anyway,
Well, I thought he said 6 that he was convicted of. 4, or no. Was it 6 he was convicted of?
it
Anyway,
was
whether it's
6
6,
that
5, or 4, whether it's 6, 5, or 4, he said he was convicted of um, 6. Let's say 6. And then there was
I
the
just
1.
gave you what he said.
Right. Okay. I'm saying I don't remember, but so he was convicted of 6. The one that they couldn't get the conviction on or whatever. 4 that they had no way of even knowing that he had ever done, and then 5 others.
No, he never said anything about 5 others,
I
but
think. All right. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I was double dipping with my numbers.
maybe.
I just don't think. Well, you still haven't convinced me.
Okay, I'm not trying to convince you. I enjoyed the movie. I gave it an 8.3, and I've given you the reasons why.
I'm not
I don't need
convinced.
to convince you that it's a great movie.
Did you think the ending was actually good though? Why did you think the ending was good, or like a good full conclusion of the movie?
So, okay, I do think part of the reasons why I gave it an 8.3 instead of higher is because of the last 2 minutes. I think if they would have cut the entire scene with Glenn Beck out and just
Mm-hmm.
ended it right after the execution and he tries to kill himself, I think
Mm-hmm.
you end it there and it's a much better movie. I feel like the last part tacked on muddies the water a little bit, and I think they were trying to set up for maybe a second one, especially with that very end scene where he's talking to
Homeless
the
lady.
homeless lady, which I don't think they needed to do.
Yeah, and because it didn't kind of make sense how he was possessed by Nefarious, and Nefarious wanted him to kill himself, and then next time you see, then it just cuts, and he's on the Glenn Beck show, and he's not possessed by Nefarious. He wrote this book to warn people about Nefarious.
Well, are we sure that he wasn't possessed at all? Because he may not have been possessed by Nefarious at the time, but there's different mannerisms. So, like, whenever the serial killer, when the demon is talking, he's got a particular tick where he's constantly doing this number,
Mm-hmm.
and then when he's not, when you actually get talk to the person, he's got different mannerisms. So the entire movie, this guy is very calm, cool, collected for the most part. You don't see any weird tics or mannerisms. When you get to the interview with Glenn Beck, he keeps doing this number every once in a while. So, and Nefarious said at the very beginning of the movie that his master is lets other demons possess people at certain times. So it could be that he was still technically possessed just by a different demon. Because he
I
flat
mean,
out
that's
said
the
he.
theory, and
Right.
I see where you're getting the theory, but I don't think it's how it's written.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I see it. I see what you're talking about, but I don't think that's how it's written.
Okay.
Um, one reason a reason that the only thing that I have kind of to negate that is his hair. Throughout the whole movie, when he shows up there, his hair is nice, slick, and whatever. And then as it progresses throughout his time in the prison, his hair slowly gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Like gets more disheveled, gets more in his face, and then it's super crazy when he gets possessed, right? Then when you
Okay.
cut and go to the Glenn Beck show, his hair is normal. His hair is nice, clean, shapen, like how it was in the beginning. Well,
Okay.
similar. I think it was a little different style, maybe, but wasn't disheveled. Um, the interaction between Glenn Beck and him, the conversation was weird, and it. Obviously, they're trying to do it like an interview,
Mm-hmm.
but it seemed like um, Dr. Martin's responses were like it did kind of seem like he was trying to hide something,
Right.
which was weird because he wrote a book about the whole situation. So yeah, I could see that maybe he was still possessed by something, and then he's like on his way to finding truth or whatever, which doesn't make any sense either.
Uh-huh.
And why would Nefarious leave him?
Because I mean the demons, the way Nefarious sets it up is they're listening to their master. So if the master says, "Hey Nefarious, you don't get this guy, so and so, you get this guy."
Okay, I guess in that world, then yeah, but that's not how it. In theology, that's not how it works.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's partly what bothered me is that okay, they're like, okay, the demon is out, Nefarious is out of him because it's in the homeless lady, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Dr. Martin doesn't. He seems different,
Mm-hmm.
but not um not converted to
Right.
Christianity,
Yep.
which makes no sense.
I agree with you.
uh,
Which is part of the reasons why I think he's still possessed. Because I don't see how get to
right.
you get demon possessed. The only
Yeah.
way to not be possessed anymore is to turn your life over to Jesus, to God. So
Yeah.
if you're not doing that, there's no way to get rid of the demon.
Yeah. The demons have to be cast out and
Correct.
then replaced.
Right.
But there was no casting out because
Correct.
he he was already indwelt with the unclean spirit. And in theology and in the Bible, there's no demons don't just leave people of
Right.
their own accord.
Uh-huh.
They have to be forced out. Um, and yeah, if they're forced out and not um, not replaced by the Holy Spirit, then 7 more come, right?
Correct.
So that made no sense. And then I guess I get why they had Glenn Beck, because he's a big name, and he's in the religious circles as a oh, what the heck, Mormon.
Yeah.
Which I kind of had a problem with, especially if these are, well, I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, we have a problem with it because he's Mormon, not a Christian. So I think that's why we have a problem with it. But I think it still works. I think we just have a problem with the Mormon theology. Um,
Yeah, but the guy who also wrote the book, Steve Dace, also works at the Blaze. So
oh,
I
okay.
think that's another part of why
Why
Glenn
he?
Beck made an appearance.
Okay. And maybe the Blaze had something to do with some funding or producing or something like that. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, who knows? Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Um, just looking through this real quick.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, we both have different opinions on the movie.
Yeah,
So, what are your closing thoughts on it?
it could have been more horrific. It could have had more horror to it, and even as a psychological thriller, it could have been more intense.
Okay.
It could have been more like they tried to get you right with the light bulb. Can you get out of here? Say hi and bye. I know you love my cats, right? Anyway, there could have been more intensity to it, right? Because it already has an R rating. So let's instill some fear into people, right? Okay, we can have them think, but we can also have them be fearful, because fear is a motivator, right? Fear induces emotional reactions, and it's fun. I was expecting at least some jump scares, or like nothing like weird creepy things coming out of the dark or anything, but there could have been something, right? Because well, in the Bible, everybody is always afraid of the people who are demon possessed. They don't
Okay,
have
yeah.
anything to do with them. You stay over there and don't come into town. Like, we don't want you around. And they do crazy things like walk around naked and ridiculously strong. Things
Okay.
like that. So I think I don't know. I think there could have been more intensity, more horror, more fear. Didn't have to be. It didn't need to be like all the dumb things that I hate about horror movies to make you have a little bit of intensity and fear involved. Um, because even the doctor, there was never a moment when it seemed like he was fearful, except even kind of when he was getting strangled. Like, he may have been like a little afraid he was gonna die, but
I think, no, I read that completely different. I felt like he was being choked and he was incredibly fearful of dying, but he couldn't scream or anything because he's got a giant chain around his neck being pulled and he's being suffocated.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have been more pissed off than afraid, because there's
Okay.
4 guards standing there not beating this
Not
guy,
doing a dadgum thing. Yeah.
because he's just got him around the neck, choking him. They could have started hitting him then. They would have let go, right?
In theory, yeah.
In theory, or they could have just shot him in the head.
Well, I don't think prison guards carry guns with live ammo.
Yeah, well, whatever. They could have got a gun. So yeah, that's part of my issue with it because
Okay.
they tried to build this as a horror. Obviously, I know you're saying it's not, but it's billed as one. They're trying to get into that genre. You can roll your eyes, but
Because you keep going over the same points. Yes, we understand that you have a problem with the horror thing, that they didn't live up to it.
it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Okay. All right.
Because yeah, to me, there's no fear. I was never like, oh, what's gonna happen? Like, and that's the way I watch normal horror movies. That's why I don't like horror movies because they're just dumb, in my opinion.
Okay. Great.
This could have been done better. But I still might tell people to go watch it.
Yeah. So, I mean, my
I would
final
tell people to go
thoughts.
watch it. You frozen?
No, I'm not. I was waiting for you to get done talking.
Why?
So,
Just talk.
because I don't want to talk over each other. Anyway.
Well, I do.
Anyway, my final thoughts. I thought it was a good movie, definitely worth a watch. It is one that I'd recommend to people to go watch. Yeah. So that's my closing thoughts. All right. So if you guys have made
thoughts?
what?
Is that your closing thoughts?
Yes. Thank you for interrupting again. But yeah. So if you guys made it to this far into the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment down below on some other movies that you would like to see us review.
Mondays is movie reviews, and Thursdays is series reviews. 6:30 Central Time, usually. If it's not at that time, it'll be at a different time.
Yep.
This Thursday, we're talking about the new show on Amazon, Jury Duty. So join us for that. And until